Apparently, Donald Trump's White House has a little bit of a Jared problem. And of course, by that I mean Jared Kushner. It appears that Donald Trump's allies are in a panic over Trump's disastrous polling numbers, and they're looking for somebody to blame, and that person, of course, is Jared Kushner. Uh, so now, in interviews with the American Spectator, Amber Athey, conservatives who work with the White House are now accusing Jared Kushner of sabotaging Donald Trump's presidency, whether through malice or total incompetence. I love it. As the White House turns, my vote, of course, my vote is for incompetence because look, there's nothing better that the Trump family does. I should say there's nothing the Trump family does better than to display complete incompetence. Look, I remember reading stuff about Jared Kushner and how not only is he a slumlord, but he's also not very smart and a lot like Donald Trump. And of course, Jared Kushner is married to Ivanka. That's part of the reason why he's in that family to begin with. Actually, that is the main reason why he's in that family to begin with, but I digress. And it is kind of ironic, right? When you look at the family dynamic, especially like, oh, Ivanka's daddy's girl. And then, daddy's like, oh, if she wasn't my daughter, I'd totally date her. And it's ironic to see that she has married someone that was almost described to be almost like Donald Trump, at least when it comes to stupidity and incompetence, as well as bluster. And so we'll get into that in the story later on. But I want to show, I want to give you some of these fantastic quotes here from the story. Trump has a Jared problem, one conservative tells Athey. Jared is a total fuck up. Everything he touches turns to lead. I love it. God, I love it. And look, where's the lie, right? No lie is detected because look, Kushner has no idea what he's doing. Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, I mean, they bring nothing to the table. He and Ivanka are about as useful as a knit condom. Okay, deeply, deeply unqualified to do anything that they're tasked to do. And look, when's the last time you heard Ivanka come out and say anything? It had to have been a couple of months ago. And of course, as soon as she says something, she's 100% panned because what she says is usually pretty vapid. I remember a video of her trying to speak to world leaders, and she'll like come in and butt in and be like, oh yeah, totally, I'm pretending to be a smart person right now, even though I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. But hey, don't I look good? This is what we have. And you wonder why the White House is falling apart, right? And I don't mean so in a structural sense, although there is some evidence of that as well. But I mean in a political sense. This administration is just it's a dumpster fire on wheels. What that is? All right. So now, another conservative who recently attended an immigration briefing with Kushner, and this goes to, of course, how unqualified he is, said that they were shocked about how little he knew about immigration policy. Oh, this is a good quote. Quote, he presents as someone very knowledgeable and in the know until he faces questions. They explain, he goes off the record or on deep background so people don't realize he's a fucking idiot. Man, who does that remind you of? Good question. Good question. Look, look, Donald Trump, I love how, Donald Trump will go and be like, I know more than the generals. I know more about anything than anybody ever in this world. Yeah, I mean, he says pretty much insert, anything into that sentence. And it's about what Donald Trump says. Like, nobody knows about healthcare as much as I do. I know everything about healthcare more than any of the doctors and the nurses. I should have been a doctor. You know that? I should have been a doctor. I've got great genes. My uncle, Dr. John Trump, Yeah, he's works at MIT. He's a great scientist, and it's just in my blood. It's in my genes. I should have done that instead of become president. Oh my god, he's a fucking moron. He's a moron. And look, Kushner is exactly like that. Fuck ups and all. And yet Donald Trump has placed him in a lot of high positions. Again, he's supposed to be what? Overseeing peace in the Middle East. You put Kushner in charge of that one. And Kushner has his own issues, of course. Uh, financial, I guess, conflicts of interest going on there, trying to get money from, I think, Qatar or the UAE to try to finance his like disastrous investment in like a building in New York and just all this stuff, right? That makes him 100% unqualified and compromised when it comes to actually doing real foreign policy like he's supposed to. And so he's the last person that needs to be in any sort of position of power. And yet Donald Trump puts him there. Why? Well, one part is, of course, loyalty, right? Jared Kushner, of course, is considered to be loyal because he's part of the family. He's married to Ivanka. And so it's about trust. The only people that Donald Trump tends to trust are people who are loyalists, again, like his daughter and son-in-law. And, of course, you guys know how much Donald Trump loves his daughter. But I already touched on that. Nonetheless, a lot of these conservatives that are around them that are working with the White House are saying, what are you doing letting Jared Kushner run all this stuff? He's a moron. He's terrible at his job. And the main worry, of course, is he's going to get not only us killed in the election, right? Or you, I should say, but us, the rest of us. Like, it's not just going to be destruction at the top of the ticket. And this is what they're worried about. It's going to be destruction all the way down the ticket. Like, they're worried about Republicans in the Senate losing the Senate, losing their seats. And then, of course, Democrats coming in and keeping the House, getting the presidency and the Senate. They're deeply, deeply worried about that. And look, the way that right now the polling is going, and I can understand that, if you're skeptical of the polls, obviously, as, we are still a little bit far out and not every poll is accurate. I know all the caveats and everything, so I shouldn't have to continue to repeat that. But nonetheless, I mean, so far, if everything stays the same, then yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a blowout, an absolute blowout. But here's the thing, right? Donald Trump himself is super lazy. He doesn't actually want to run things. He doesn't actually want to work, which is why Kushner is doing all this stuff. Even Kushner has started to take over Donald Trump's campaign instead of Brad Parscale. And of course, that's because Parscale had hyped up this COVID rally in Oklahoma, which turned out to be pretty bad. So bad that Trump, he looked out into the nearly, it was only a couple thousand people that showed up, 6,000, I believe, 6,200 as an exact number, when it was supposed to be filled with 19,000 and then thousands more that were supposed to be in an overflow room. That's what they booked. And so Trump, when he looked out on the stage, and he saw all those empty seats, he's like, no, I'm not going to go out. He threw an absolute fit. And so that's why Kushner is now partly in charge of the Trump campaign, as well as everything else that he's doing. And that's because Donald Trump doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to do anything. And also the other reason is when Kushner inevitably messes it up because he's incompetent, Donald Trump still has someone to blame other than himself. And so it's that delegation of, responsibilities that Donald Trump loves to do because, again, he's lazy and he gets to blame other people. So congratulations, right? Now, there's one more thing. All of this has not stopped conservatives from coming up with conspiracy theories about Jared Kushner, which is pretty funny. They're accusing him, some at least, of being a Democratic plant. This is great. In fact, what is it? One person told Athy, quote, the depths and lengths Jared is going to stab Trump in the back are quite profound. Another says, Trump has been burned by Jared so many times. Look, here's the thing. Like, I really don't believe that Jared is some sort of Democrat plant, right? For one, that would make dinner very, very awkward because Donald Trump would be your father-in-law. I'm just saying, super awkward, right? So there's no need for conspiracies. I do err on the side of I believe that Jared Kushner is deeply, deeply incompetent. He's just dumb and he's over his head. And the Trump family is also that dumb to put people like that in charge of very important things. Never underestimate stupid. I'm telling you guys, Trump is dumb. Kushner is dumb. It's not a conspiracy. It's just stupid. These two are going to try to bumble and fumble their way into what is likely going to be a landslide defeat because Donald Trump and Jared Kushner refuse to change their election strategy. They're still running with the 2016 playbook. Now, it's a completely different election than 2016. No longer are people looking for a radical change candidate. What they're looking for is a semblance to get back to normal, right? And a president that's going to bring them some semblance of normalcy. And that is really Joe, right now, Joe Biden, he's the definition of establishment. And so, yeah, there are people that are like, well, compared to the crazy that we're in today, yeah, I'd rather go back to that. As a progressive, I kind of disagree. I don't think we should stay here, but I think we need to progress and think we need to go forward. But apparently the electorate at this point didn't quite agree. And so we're in the situation that we're in. And I think we got to get this guy out because he is dangerous because of how he's handled COVID-19, how the Republicans have handled COVID-19, as well as the calls for police reform, Black Lives Matter. And of course, coincidentally, that's why Donald Trump's polls are in the gutter right now. And yet, despite all this, as of now, Kushner's job appears to be safe. This, Athy writes, has caused conservatives to complain about having to deal with 4 more years of Jared should the president win a second term. That's assuming that Donald Trump rebounds from his bad polling, and that's not unheard of course, but and I'm not saying that anybody should let their guard down for this election, obviously, or take any of this for granted, right? But it's not looking good for Trump, and so it's possible that they're not really going to have to worry about that problem anymore. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.